Supreme Court affirms Mariam Sanders' death sentence. Bayelsa government confirms a deputy governor's death, declares 3 days mourning. Dangote refinery slashes petrol price to 699 Naira per litre. And on the foreign scene, UK sanctions RSF commanders over links to mass killings in Sudan. Hello and welcome to News Update on Trust TV. I am Maimuna Bagudu. Now, the Supreme Court has reaffirmed the death sentence that was handed to Mariam Sanders, the daughter-in-law of a former chairman of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, for committing culpable homicide. In a split judgment of 4-1, a 5-member panel of justices of the Apex Court restated the judicial pronouncement that ordered her death by hanging. The court resolved all the issues she raised to set aside her conviction and the sentence against her and dismissed her appeal for want of merit. In the lead verdict that was delivered by Justice Moore Odumien, the Apex Court held that the prosecution established her guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. It held that the Court of Appeal's decision that upheld the sentence that was passed by the trial court was unassailable. The Supreme Court held that it was wrong for President Tinubu, being the head of the executive arm of the government, to seek to exercise his powers to grant a pardon over a case of culpable homicide, in respect of which an appeal was pending. Now, Justice Mariam Hassan of the Federal Capital Territory has ordered the remand of the former Minister of Labour and Employment, Chris Ngige, at the Kuje Correctional Center. Ngige, who was arraigned on an alleged corruption charge, will remain in Kuje Correctional Center until Monday, when his bail application will be heard. The minister was specifically charged with conferring unfair advantage on his associates in the award of several contracts when he held office as minister between 2015 and 2023. He was also accused of corruptly accepting gifts of several million naira through his organizations while he was in office. The ex-minister, however, pleaded not guilty to all the 8-count charges brought against him by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC. However, his bail application could not be taken as it was served on the prosecution shortly before the court proceeded.
The defendant has been arraigned, duly arraigned. He pleaded guilty to all the 8 counts charges leveled against him. Naturally, before commencement of trial, the place of abode for him shall be nowhere other than the correctional center. And that's the application we made to the Honorable Court. But they desired that the man should just walk home from here, while there is a pending formal bail application that has been filed before the Honorable Court, which we, prosecution, need to react to. So having gone back and forth, the court made the appropriate order, remanding the defendant in the Video Correctional Center, and the matter is adjourned till Monday, when we shall all come back and argue the bail application.
What we asked the court wasn't for him to go home. We wanted to ask the court, and we asked the court that because of his health condition, indeed, even the EFCC agreed that he's not well. And because of his health condition, he needs to have access to medical attention. Now, unfortunately, they don't have that at the EFCC. And what I asked the court was to allow that whilst he's anywhere, whether it's the Correctional Center or wherever he is, that he may have access to medical attention. That's what I asked the court for. And we're happy that the court agreed to come back for this matter on Monday.
And now we move to Bayelsa State, where the state government on Friday confirmed the death of Deputy Governor Lawrence Erujapo and declared a 3-day state mourning in his honor. In a statement issued and signed by the Bayelsa State Commissioner for Information, Orientation and Strategy, Ebuwo Koko Obia, The government described Ewujapo's death as one that came with deep regret and profound shock. Governor Diri subsequently directed that all flags be flown at half-mast. Diri extended condolences to the deputy governor's wife, Beatrice, their children, the Ewujapo's family, Ofoni Federated Community, Henry Seriake Dixon, and the citizens of the state. He prayed for God's comfort and strength for the family and the entire state. And our Rivers State Governor Siminalayi Fubara has been formally registered as a member of the All Progressive Congress APC after receiving his party membership card at Government House, Port Harcourt. The Rivers State APC Chairman Tony Okocha, who represented the APC National Chairman Ntawe Yelwata, presented the card to Fubara on Friday. Speaking at the event, Governor Fubara said his decision to join the APC was aimed at promoting unity and development in Rivers State. Fubara said aligning with the ruling party at the federal level became necessary to ensure political stability and accelerate development across the state. He noted that supporting President Bola Tinubu is not only a matter of political alignment, but also a show of appreciation for the president's sacrifices in keeping the Rivers State government standing through its most challenging moments.
If you had listened to me when I took this decision, it was for the safety, protection, progress, development of our dear state. We can't be doing our own here and we'll be going on a different course with the federal government, the ruling party. There is every reason to support Mr. President.
I was called up by the chairman of our great party, national chairman, and given the mandate to visit with you and formally make the presentation of our membership card to you as a prelude to the official reception that you both will pan out. And that assignment for me is a holy one for that matter, I can say so. Before I get deep into that, let me take this time out to congratulate you on your decision to join the All Progressive Congress.
Now, the People's Democratic Party, PDP, in Borno State has announced that it will withdraw from the state's local government elections scheduled for Saturday, December the 13th. The party cited a lack of confidence in the Electoral Commission and the high cost of expression of interest and nomination forms as reasons for its decision. In a statement on Friday, PDP State Publicity Secretary Amos Aziba said the decision was made during a recent State Executive Committee meeting in Maiduguri. The party also expressed concern over the government's failure to amend the electoral bill to enable councillor results to be declared at the ward level and chairmanship results at local government headquarters. And now we move to Niger State, where the governor, Umaru Bago, has sworn in 30 commissioners, 25 elected local government council chairmen and their vice chairman, as well as board members of key state agencies. The swearing-in ceremony took place at the Hawawali Multipurpose Hall Government House in Mina. The Chief Judge of Niger State, Justice Halima Abdul Malik, was represented by Justice Maimuna Abubakar of High Court 6, who administered the oath of office and allegiance. Governor Bago said the appointees were carefully selected based on proven track records and capacity, expressing confidence that they will deliver quality service for a greater and more prosperous Niger state. He urged them to reflect on past governance challenges and work collectively towards building a sustainable, inclusive, and progressive state. Now moving on, the National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control has destroyed substandard and unwholesome products worth over 5 billion naira in Nasarawa State. Director General of NAFDAC, Professor Christiana Adeyeye, represented by the North Central Zonal Director, Kenneth Azikiwe, supervised the destruction exercise at the Angwanrere dump site in Lafia. The products seized during routine monitoring across Nasarawa, Benue, Kogi, and Plateau states included fake drugs, falsified medical devices, unsafe cosmetics, expired chemicals, and unwholesome processed foods. Professor Adeyeye said the move prevents the dangerous items from re-entering the market, describing some of the dealers as unscrupulous merchants of death. She appealed to Nigerians to report manufacturers and distributors of substandard products. Nasarawa State Commissioner for Security and Safety Matters, Osman Baba, commended NAFDAC and pledged continued support. This is news updates on Trust TV coming up after the break. Female lawyers hail rise of judicial activism protecting women across Africa. More news when we return. Do stay with us. Welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is the news update on Trust TV. Let's take a look at our top stories once again. Supreme Court affirms Mariam Sanders' death sentence. And Bayelsa government confirms a deputy governor's death, declares 3 days mourning. And now moving on to other stories. Across the African continent, courts are increasingly going beyond traditional interpretations of the law to safeguard fundamental human rights, a trend known as judicial activism. African judges are becoming more proactive in interpreting constitutions and international treaties to defend human rights, particularly those of women and girls. Legal practitioners across the continent say African courts are shaping justice and strengthening human rights enforcement. Victoria Tokolo sent in this report as presented from our studios. Let's take a look.
Judicial activism refers to the proactive role of courts in broadly interpreting the law to protect constitutional rights and advance justice. In many African countries where cultural norms have long restricted women's access to justice, the judiciary is now emerging as a strong defender of their rights. Across the region, judges rely on national constitutions, national mechanisms, and international treaties to challenge discriminatory practices and uphold equality. In Nigeria, judicial activism has helped dismantle deeply rooted cultural norms that deprive women of their rights. Some female African legal practitioners who spoke on the role of judicial activism in advancing women's rights shared insights on how the judiciary is pushing boundaries to ensure justice for women and girls.
And then when it comes to the Ghanaian courts, what they've done when it comes to property rights is that the court has established that any property that is acquired during the subsistence of a marriage is deemed as a joint property, unless you are able to prove that this is personal property acquired. So that's one, whether you are a woman or you are a man, if you can prove within a reasonable doubt that this property, you acquired it on your own, and the court assesses it and believes that, yes, indeed, this one is just for you, the court will give it to you. However, the law is that any property acquired within the subsistence of a marriage is deemed as joint property.
With the emergence of judicial
authorities, judgment, we discover that the women's rights has been recognized, especially in activism, whereby a lot of cultural practices that are contrary to the rights of humanity has been abolished. For instance, you find out that in some parts of Nigeria, women are not allowed to inherit land, to inherit property, because they are men, they are women.
Who are being subjected to degrading situations or situations that are affecting their dignity based on some cultural practices or customs to approach the court. There is a remedy. Where there is a right, there is a remedy. By bringing these customs before the light of a judicial power, it can be ruled upon as to whether it is repugnant to to equality, to good conscience, and it can help protect their rights.
Judicial activism in Africa continues to demonstrate that courts can drive social transformation. To sustain these gains, experts are calling for stronger collaboration among the judiciary, government institutions, and law enforcement agencies to ensure the protection of women's rights becomes a reality across African societies.
Now, Speaker of the House says the country's workplace safety laws are outdated and reforms can no longer wait. At a public hearing in the Occupational Health and Safety Bill 2025, Speaker Abbas Tajuddin, represented by Honorable Olumide Oshoba, said Nigeria's fast-changing work environment has outgrown its old safety laws. He warned that millions of workers in factories, farms, construction sites and hospitals still face preventable hazards because regulations are weak and enforcement is limited. And Chairman of the House Committee on Safety Standards, Honorable David Zakaria, called the bill a major reform that replaces obsolete legislation with a modern, science-based system aligned with international standards. The Federal Fire Service, represented by Chief Superintendent Sariki Abdurrahman, urged lawmakers to clarify parts of the bill to avoid conflict with existing fire safety regulations.
The urgency of this bill is evident when we consider the fact that these hazards are mostly prevalent in the sectors that drive our economy. In construction, unsafe scaffolding and collapsing structures have left families devastated. In manufacturing, exposure to hazardous chemicals and poor training to continue to endanger lives and undermine productivity. In oil and gas, the backbone of our economy, risk from inflammable substances, toxic gases, and offshore operations demand preparedness and accountability that only clear legal mandates can ensure.
These bills change that by providing stronger enforcement power for inspectors, clearer duty for employers and employees, mandatory reporting systems, improving penalty for violations, nationwide safety information management, enhanced training and certification requirements, and to expanded protections for vulnerable workers.
You have to look at some of these exposures in the workplace to the kind of hazard you are exposed to. The hazards are not of the same level. Somebody exposed to radiological, explosive, chemical, biological, all these components, if they are to be covered, each should be covered with a commensurate kind of punishment.
Now we move to business. The Dangote Petroleum Refinery, has again reduced its petrol gantry price, slashing the ex-depot rate from 828 naira to 699 naira per litre. Real-time market data published on petroleumprice.ng on Friday showed that the refinery implemented another major downward review, cutting the premium motor spirit benchmark price by 129 naira per litre, a 15.58% reduction. An official of the refinery who spoke on condition of anonymity because he was not authorized to comment publicly also confirmed the adjustment. The new price took effect on December 11, 2025, marking the 20th petrol price adjustment announced by the refinery this year. The latest reduction comes barely 5 days after the refinery's chairman, Aliko Dangote, restated his commitment to keeping domestic fuel prices reasonable and competitive despite global volatility and persistent smuggling along Nigeria's borders. Now, away from Nigeria, the UK on Friday imposed sanctions on senior commanders of Sudan's Rapid Support Forces, RSF, suspected of heinous violence in the Darfur hub of El Fasher, which the paramilitary group captured in October. The Foreign Office in London said those targeted include RSF second-in-command Abdurrahim Hamdan Daglo, whose brother Mohammed Hamdan Daglo is the group's leader, as well as 3 other commanders. They are accused of mass killings, systematic sexual violence, and deliberate attacks on civilians. When the RSF dislodged the Sudanese army from El Fasher, its last stronghold in the western Darfur region, they now face UK asset freezes and travel bans. The government said the RSF's action in El Fasher were not random, but instead part of a deliberate strategy to terrorize populations and seize control through fear and violence. In a statement unveiling the UK corps, Foreign Secretary Veltin Cooper said the atrocities taking place in Sudan are so horrific, they scare the conscience of the world. And now in sports, Cameroon have officially unveiled their new kit for the 2025 Africa Cup of Nations in Morocco. The launch came with a special moment as football legend and FECAFOOT president Samuel Eto'o personally stepped out in the jersey during its presentation to the press. The unveiling ceremony held on Friday generated excitement among fans as the indomitable Lions showcased a bold and stylish design ahead of the continental showpiece. Eto'o's appearance in full kit drew applause, adding prestige to the event and symbolically endorsing the team's readiness for the tournament. The new jersey features Cameroon's traditional colors with modern detailing, reflecting both the nation's football heritage and a fresh, competitive spirit. With that, we've come to the end of News Update on Trust TV. Do well to follow us on all of our social media platforms and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more news. Join us at 9 p.m. for more news on News Hour. I am Nimina Bagudu. Thanks for watching.